She never thought you'd actually walk away. She thought no matter how many times she disrespected you, tested your worth, or treated your loyalty like an option, you'd always be there waiting, hurting, hoping. But now you're here, numb, angry, confused, wondering why your loyalty got punished and her chaos got rewarded. You gave your all. You stayed. You fought. And in return, she pulled away, ignored your efforts, weaponized your emotions, and you kept trying until you couldn't anymore. This video isn't for the weak. It's for the man who's had enough, who's tired of begging for bare minimum, who's ready to turn pain into power. Because when a woman doesn't value you, there's only one way to hurt her. Not with revenge, not with words, but with results. This isn't about making her jealous. It's about making you unreachable. You'll learn how to shift the energy, reclaim your peace, and rebuild in silence until your glow haunts her memory. If you've ever been discarded like an option, this is your moment. And if you're listening, it means it's not too late to transform your life completely. Comment below, I choose peace. Because by the end of this video, peace won't just be your choice, it'll be your power. Number one, she hates when you're unbothered. She expects you to react, to panic, to chase, to question everything, because that's the cycle she's used to. She's used to being the center of gravity in every room, every argument, every silence. But when you stop orbiting her, when you pull back your energy completely and refuse to give her your reaction, you break the dynamic. You become untouchable, not because you're acting superior, but because you're no longer available for emotional manipulation. This isn't about playing games, it's about not playing at all. You choose your peace over her drama. You stop explaining yourself for her comfort. You stop bending just to be enough. And what does she do? She panics because she never expected that silence, that calm, that complete indifference. She scrolls through your feed, watches your stories, tries to decode your absence, but there's nothing left to decode. You're not there. You're building. You're elevating. And it's not a performance. It's not staged. It's your real life now. You stop responding to her signals, not out of spite, but because you genuinely don't see her as your priority anymore. This hits harder than anger, harder than confrontation. She's no longer your crisis to fix. You're not her therapist. You're not her validator. You become your own solution. You rebuild your mornings, your routines, your sleep, your body, your discipline. You read, you train, you write your goals on the wall and attack them daily. You surround yourself with men of purpose and eliminate energy leaks. And as you evolve, she shrinks. Not because you tried to hurt her, but because your growth exposes her stagnancy. You hurt her not by shouting, but by healing, not by ignoring, but by transforming. You become the man she thought only existed in movies, and when she finally realizes what she lost, it's already too late. You no longer wait for closure because you became it. You no longer seek her attention because you outgrew it. And now your silence, your calm, your focus, your glow, that's her punishment. So if you've been left questioning your worth, understand this. Your value was never in her hands. It was always in yours. Now act like it. Number two, ignoring her kills her control. She used to predict your every move. She knew your rhythm, your desperation, your late-night texts, your apologies. But now there's only distance, and it eats at her. Because the man who used to orbit her world now has his own sun. You don't chase closure. You create new beginnings. You ignore, not with malice, but with mastery, the kind that comes from self-respect, the kind that demands no explanation. You've broken the cycle. She tests your reaction with silence, with crumbs of attention, with fake emergencies. And you don't bite because you're done being emotionally manipulated like a yo-yo in the hands of someone who treats affection like a transaction. She thought you were just another desperate echo in her inbox, but now she's checking twice, triple tapping your profile just to feel something. And that feeling is not power, it's loss. You have become the absence that cannot be replaced. Your ignoring isn't passive, it's purposeful. You replace reaction with reflection, excuses with execution. While she crafts her next test, you're already 2 years ahead, building what she never believed in. She once told her friends she had you wrapped. Now she doesn't mention you because your glow is proof of what she missed. You don't engage. You don't explain. You level up and let the silence speak. That's the consequence of a woman who thought your time was free. She underestimated a man who finally chose himself. And now she watches from the sidelines as you live a story she can't rewrite. You're not ignoring her. You're prioritizing your peace, your progress, your purpose. And that's what destroys her control forever. Every time she checks her phone and sees no missed calls, no unread messages from you, it chips away at the illusion she once had of control. Because for the first time, she's invisible to the man who once made her feel like the center of the universe. That switch from being worshipped to being ignored feels like rejection, but not just from you, from reality. It makes her question her beauty, her influence, her choices. And the harshest truth is this: you no longer care. You don't need her validation. You don't need her closure. You don't even need to hate her. You just outgrew her. The man she thought she left behind, that version of you no longer exists. And the man you've become doesn't even remember the version of her that once had power. You aren't cruel, you're indifferent. Not performative, not staged, real. And that's what eats at her every night when she sees your progress, your presence, your peace. She wishes you'd fight. She hopes you'd argue. But your silence tells a story. You've moved on to a version of life where she no longer belongs. Start now. Build your system. Refuse access to those who don't value it. Practice this detachment in everything: your texts, your tone, your choices. No grand exit, just elevation. Let her feel what she caused, not through vengeance, but through your victory, because ignoring her isn't punishment. It's the new language of a man who's finally moved on. And if you're tired of feeling disposable, if you're done letting disrespect slide because you're scared of being alone, then you need what most men were never taught: emotional control, power, and peace. That's exactly why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, a brutal, clear, and empowering guide to mastering your energy, rebuilding your standards, and becoming the man she can never play again. This isn't a book of theory. It's real, raw principles you can apply today to take your dignity and direction back. And once you get it, it's yours forever. No expiration, no subscriptions. Every chapter, every lesson, always accessible whenever life tries to pull you back into the chaos. The link is in the comments. Get it now, because if you're not equipped with this knowledge, you'll keep relearning the same painful lessons until you finally decide to change everything. Number 3, she can't handle your detachment. She thought you would chase forever, that every time she withdrew, you'd step closer, that every delay in her replies, every emotional wall, every cold response would be met with your pursuit. But this time you didn't follow. You walked quietly, decisively, not out of spite, but because the version of you who once needed her attention no longer exists. Your detachment isn't a tactic. It's your truth. You have learned to sit with your pain, confront your need for approval, and break free from emotional dependency. That's what rattles her. She realizes now she doesn't live in your head anymore. She used to control you with affection, starve you with withdrawal, lure you with confusion. But your peace is no longer something she can interrupt. You've stepped out of the emotional loop, the one where you explain yourself endlessly, apologize for existing, and beg to be seen. You don't beg anymore. You build. And what scares her is that your absence isn't temporary. You're not waiting for her to come around. You're not leaving the door unlocked. You've moved on, and not to someone else, but to someone deeper. The version of yourself who respects his boundaries, keeps his energy clean, and demands nothing less than mutual effort. This kind of detachment can't be faked. It comes from heartbreak, from confusion, from growth. She can't handle it because she knows it's real, and it means she lost access forever. She thought your detachment was a phase, that it was temporary, that you'd come back, that you'd crack under the weight of silence. But you didn't. You got stronger. And every day that passed without her name crossing your screen, she felt it deeper. Not the absence of words, the absence of need. You no longer need her approval, her affection, or her explanation because your peace has become your priority. Your detachment didn't come easy. It came after nights of questioning your worth, Days of chasing clarity that never came, and the eventual realization that no one is coming to save you. You built yourself from scratch, mentally, emotionally, physically, until your identity no longer required her recognition. She can't handle your detachment because it removes her leverage. She can't trigger you, can't guilt trip you, can't tempt you, and she hates it. Not because you hurt her, but because she can no longer access the version of you who would have done anything just to be chosen. That man is gone. What's left is someone grounded, someone who chooses himself daily, someone who walks away not with anger, but with self-respect. Your detachment is freedom, and freedom scares people who only know how to manipulate chaos. So when she sends the late-night texts, posts the memory triggers, shows up where you are, don't flinch. She's not looking for love. She's looking for access. Access you no longer give. Detachment isn't indifference. It's healing in motion. It's when you stop begging to be seen and start seeing yourself clearly. When you detach, you don't become emotionless. You become focused. And focus is the one thing her confusion cannot survive. Number 4, you stop explaining yourself. You used to explain everything. Why you cared, why you stayed, why you tried so hard to make it work. You defended your truth as if it needed validation from someone who never valued it. But now you say less. You do more. You let your actions scream what your words used to whisper. She asks why you've changed. You don't answer. Not because you're hiding, but because you've grown. You stop explaining because you've realized she never listened. She never tried to understand. Your love was something she used to test her power. Now it's something she can't reach. You don't explain your boundaries. You live them. You don't explain your distance. You embody it. You stop negotiating with someone who never intended to meet you halfway. And when she finally tries to understand what happened, the silence is all that's left. She looks back and sees the moments you tried, the effort, the truth, the loyalty. But it's too late. You're no longer available for emotional debates with people who lack the depth to meet your truth. You're not being cold. You're being clear. That's what makes her spiral. She realizes you're not lost. You're focused. You're not confused. You're done. No closure. No conflict. Just evolution. That's your new language, and she can't speak it. You stop explaining because explanations are for those who intend to listen. She never listened. She heard what she wanted, twisted your truths, ignored your needs. You've realized now that explanations are currency, and you've been overspending on someone who never had the capacity to invest back. When she sees you now, she sees someone calm, not because you're unaffected, but because you've accepted that your peace matters more than her confusion. You don't send long messages. You don't revisit old fights. You don't break your own standards just to prove your worth. She used to rely on your words to gain control. Every justification, every plea, every clarification gave her power. Now your silence is the boundary she cannot argue with. You walk into rooms with quiet confidence. You move without broadcasting. She can sense it. She can feel that you're no longer in the loop. She circles back with questions. Texts like, "You really done with me?" But there's nothing left to explain. The version of you who needed her to understand is gone. Now you understand yourself, and that's enough. And that's what makes her spiral. Not your answers, but your absence of them. Because the loudest answer a man can give is no longer needing to speak. Number 5, she regrets when you replace her peacefully. She thought you'd seek revenge, that you'd replace her out of spite, parade someone new just to spark her jealousy, or crumble in her absence and crawl back. But you didn't. You replaced her quietly with peace, with purpose, with progress. And that's what she can't forgive, because you didn't move on to another woman. You moved on to a better version of yourself. No arguments, no showdowns, just distance and elevation. That's the kind of replacement that burns because you didn't try to make her regret leaving. You simply became someone she no longer has access to. She thought she could leave chaos in your chest and walk away without consequence. But you gave her the one response no manipulator can handle: complete indifference. You replaced her with mornings that feel light, routines that build your future, and nights filled with self-respect. And now when she checks your name, there's no trace of bitterness, just a man too full of life to entertain drama. You don't need closure because you've outgrown the situation. You don't need payback because your peace is proof that you've already won. She regrets it not because you replaced her, but because you replaced her better than she ever expected. She imagined you bitter, broken, replaying memories and blaming yourself. She hoped you'd stay stuck in that cycle, waiting, wondering, doubting. But instead, you disconnected. Not loudly, not for show, just quietly and permanently. You chose healing over holding on. You found clarity in the routine, power in the discipline, meaning in the solitude, and she watched it unfold too late. What breaks her is not the idea that you moved on, but that you moved forward. You stopped trying to prove your worth to someone who never saw it clearly. You became the version of yourself she never believed you'd become. You evolved in peace, and that's the regret she has to live with. You gave her every chance. You showed up. You gave deeply. And when you left without drama, without warnings, without chaos. That grace, that's what stings. Because when you walk away gently, it shows strength. And that strength rewrites the story. It ends her illusion that you needed her to survive. Now she knows you didn't replace her to hurt her. You replaced her because peace mattered more than proving anything. Like this video, and subscribe to help more men find these truths.